Welcome to the VIP Developer Roundtable, where I, your host, Ben Kilsin Walters, ask our developers the big questions from the VIP community. Visit pantheonmmo.com/pledge to ask yours. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy.
And hello, everybody. It's that time of month again, and we have another Visionary Realms legend with us today, lead writer, lore master, all-around superstar, JN Gerhart. Welcome to the show, JN.
Thank you so much, Ben. I am so happy to be here.
Great, and we are happy to have you. As you may notice, I am not actually Ben Kilsin Walters tonight. I am Ben Machail Dean. Ben Kilsin was unavailable this week, so I am filling in for him. Don't worry, he will be back next month for the next... what are these called? The Dev Roundtables. See, this is why he does it and I don't.
If you were looking to me to fill in, I had no idea what to say.
Yeah, that thing that we're doing right now, what's that called?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so welcome to the show. Glad to have you. We have a lot of questions tonight. We're going to just kind of jump right in. As you know, anybody listening, this is the VIP Roundtable. So what we do is we gather questions from the VIPs. They're able to join us in Discord live and continue asking their questions. But they do get a chance to ask them ahead of time. So we've taken a list, so we have something to get us started. Anyway, let's open it up with a question from Sunesti. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. But Sunisi asks, if you could pick any writer outside of the video games industry to write alongside you for Pantheon, who would you pick and why? How would their style fit or add to Pantheon's universe?
So I thought about this question a lot, and I was kind of expecting it to come third or fourth, so you changed it up on me, but that's okay.
I did, because I scrolled down and I'm like, oh, wait a second, that wasn't the first question.
It's okay. It's all good.
We'll go back and ask the other ones in a bit.
It's all good. It's all good. So this is really... I probably, like everything, I made too much of this and rolled it around a lot, and I think where I landed was on two people that one may be a bit of a dud from an impact standpoint, not because they're not going to wouldn't be amazing and awesome, but I think it's kind of an obvious choice. But I think they do some things behind the scenes that would be amazing to have on the team. And then another one that I picked because of just how some of their writing has impacted me recently, even. So without going to the canon of great dead authors, like I wouldn't pull from Tolkien or anybody like that. I think if I had the first pick, I just have a hard time saying no to Brandon Sanderson, and there's a number of reasons for that. One, his productivity on a game team would be so valuable. And so somebody's probably going to throw out George R.R. Martin or somebody else like that, whose productivity, this is not a criticism, is just a lot slower. Sanderson writes at a rate that doesn't make sense for a human to write at, and he produces very effective works at that speed. And if you're fast on our team, that would be awesome. Because there's just a whole lot of things to do. And then I think his thoughtfulness, his planning, his interconnectedness, all of that would be so valuable when it comes to trying to create and launch a new world. I don't mean anything about New World. I just mean a new world like ours. And so he would be really, really hard. I feel like he's an obvious pick that a lot of people would just kind of say, Brandon Sanderson. But I thought about it a lot, and I can't say no to that. So if you're making me the GM of the team, then I would say that Brandon Sanderson would be probably my first pick.
And maybe for the uninitiated, Brandon Sanderson is known for what? Storm Knight Archive.
Mistborn is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he finished Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. I mean, he's done so many things. I mean, he has a YA series. He has just a lot of just really tight knit stories. He's got great magic systems. I mean, he's got kind of everything that you would need to start a world and then propagate it. So he's, I mean, like of the last 10, 15 years, he's probably, if he's not the highest selling fantasy writer, he's second to like somebody like Martin, who just had a runaway success series. I mean, but he's so pervasive. He's done so many different things.
Another aspect too is that he, as you said, he finished the Wheel of Time series after Robert Jordan passed away. So we know that he knows how to keep true to somebody else's start, right? So that's
absolutely cool. Yeah, absolutely. And so he really invests in. I mean, he's a fan of what he writes, but then of also of other works. And so I think that you're totally right. That's another aspect that would make him like a shoe-in. And then my kind of somebody I would love to just moonlight and do some stuff is I always pronounce his name poorly. So I'm sorry if we have any Chinese nationals on the call. But Xixin Liu, who did The Dark Forest and The Three-Body Problem and all of that, Death's End. He's done Ball Lightning and all of that. At the beginning of the second book in that series, The Dark Forest, he does a both the first two books start with a scene from history. In the first book, The Three-Body Problem, it's a scene from a struggle session in early Maoist China that is just remarkable. His way of writing is even through translation is just phenomenal. And the second book, The Dark Forest, starts with, and these are sci-fi books that have, once they use these early stories, well, the second one especially has nothing to do with fantasy at all. But the second book starts with this ahistorical telling of like a seer in the midst of one of the crusades, and the I can't remember who it is, but somebody is attacking Constantinople, and it's so unbelievably good that like at the end of it you're like, wait a minute, now you're going to go tell this 2,000 years in the future, 500 years in the future, whatever, story about it, the science fiction dilemma. And he just leaves you spellbound with the way that he writes. And so he would be another one that I would say I would love to have writing in our world, at least the prose of it. And he's also so thoughtful, writes and thinks at such depth. So I saw somebody mention Joe Abercrombie. I think Joe Abercrombie's character work is phenomenal. And he would be a huge asset too. So I'm going to be done there because this is the first question.
Yeah, I know. And it doesn't really, really have anything to do with Pantheon, but it's cool too. Yes. It's good to talk about people that inspire us, people that we admire. And that actually kind of leads into into another question that came from Spoff. So we spoke a little bit about other fantasy worlds of these two writers. We know that we get some inspiration from some of these other worlds. But Spoff is asking something a little bit different. He's asking, what is one aspect of other fantasy worlds that you try your best to keep out of Pantheon lore for whatever reason? And if so, what is that reason?
So this is another one that I spent a lot of time thinking about, and I think maybe the smartest and most humble, the wisest and most humble, if that's possible to say, way to think about this or answer this is not really pulling any one thing from another world or universe and saying we will never do that, because we don't know where we're going to go and what is going to be valuable going forward. I mean, we're never going to whole cloth just say let's have light swords with space wizards in our story, because that's obviously something that's taken from a pretty well-known universe. And so we're never going to, have a place called Hogwarts or whatever. Like we're obviously not taking ideas directly from anything and going to plug it in our world if it's native to that world. What I found myself kind of sitting with were things that break believability or immersion for me personally that I'm sensitive to, and I don't see us, at least right now, using or doing. One of those would be like the combustion engine to me in a high-ish fantasy setting. It takes me too much to our actual world, our modern day, because we still are heavily reliant on that. And so I don't ever expect to have things like just like a traditional train, like just running through the Silent Plains or whatever. I feel like that immediately, gunpowder related stuff too, guns in general. Nagasaki just said guns. I agree on that. Those things take me out of our type of world. In their own worlds, they're fantastic and they can work great and they can be really compelling and awesome, and you can do very creative things like that. Mechanical, another one, the rifle bomb or mob. Mechanical machinery. There's a way to do it that's, I think, completely complementary and makes sense if you imagine having the ability to manipulate elements like you can in our world, that you can have things that serve in a similar way. I just think you have to justify it within the world differently than just saying, I want someone to have a 6-shooter, or I want someone to have a some type of mechanical apparatus like an earth mover in a like a bulldozer or whatever. There's elements that are fine in other worlds that if we bring them into our world, I feel like immediately it just puts you back. I'm like that too with some certain phrases. There are certain parts of the English language, at least, that I'm sensitive to using parlance that's too current and modern. Those types of things can immediately, at least for me, pull me out of the world. And so if we do them, they've just got to be done in a way that fits and feels organic and is derived from the kind of DNA of our world. Azul84 asked, just kind of, we don't normally do this, but I'm reading the chat a little bit more than I normally do. But with gnomes in a flying city, I think that that's something that we've talked about with design, that it's this thing has to feel like it belongs in our world. It can't just be like a carbon copy of something else that's existed somewhere else. So I'm excited what we're going to do with that. But anyway, so those are more the things than saying, hey, we don't want to have Millennium Falcons or, that sort of thing.
No GPS powered missiles, no rocket launchers, no ATVs. You heard it here first, folks. I'm sorry to let you.
Yeah,
let you
I know. This is like everybody's saying. We're totally remaking the game right now.
Yeah, better to just rip off that Band-Aid and just be out with it. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Crowsinger has done a little bit of digging and asks something very specific. Crowsinger's asks. Well, let me just read the post as it is. It's my understanding, based on the consolidated timeline of Terminus post, that the Osari battled the Sons of Terminus. Asari is slain at the ruins of Havensong after wounding one wizard. From the timeline, it seems like this battle takes place while humans and elves are in the Silent Sanctum. Crowsinger's question is, were those within the Sanctum able to look out and see any of this battle?
Fantastic question. I love that this question also, it kind of digs around to find the question, and it suggests and observes things, which is so great. And I'm not surprised at all that Crowsinger read this into the lore when it's a great question. So yes, for at least part of the battle, they were able to witness this event from the Silent Sanctum. And you're also correct in your question about where is it that they are in the Silent Sanctum, and that's correct as well. There were also 2 Sons of Terminus, and the one that got injured was named Saluseti. And I don't think we've ever shared any of the War Wizard / Sons of Terminus's names. So Saluseti is the one that Osari injured.
Please destroy this podcast after you listen to it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it will self-destruct.
Yeah. Cool. So moving along then, Ziplocs says, since much of this game's development is under wraps to the casual fan and the developers need time to craft clever perception pings and Shaolin chickens, is there a plan on official lore releasing to the public in a more methodical way so that Theric has something to read me to sleep? That's a lot of personal information, but we'll take it, Ziplocs. We will ask that question.
Ziploc says a wonderful question, and I think Theric could just probably read anything, and I mean this in a good way, help put us all to sleep.
I'm glad you precluded that, because it could be taken.
I don't mean he has a sleepy voice. No, I think he's got a great voice.
Soothing voice.
A very soothing voice. Ben, this is probably something we should talk about at some point, and I mean, I would love to hear from not everyone in the world, but everyone who has an opinion or thought on it. I was going to wrap up with this, but I'm just interested in ways that we can improve the dispensation of the lore, and if there's anything that people would like more of or less of, or stories that particularly connected with them, resonated with them. I think we've done enough different types of things to be able to ask for that feedback and know kind of what they enjoy and what they like, and what they would want to hear and read more of. There's not anything like immediate, like for instance with the bait, we kind of we really wanted to, and this is all minus, he just wanted the return to the written newsletter to be substantial, and so I kind of went to town on that because he really, I think, was just expecting maybe one entry, and what I did was just too long, and so he broke it up into 2, and that was great. But I don't have anything that like we're putting out tomorrow, so anything beyond tomorrow we'll have to talk about and see what we're gonna do and when we're gonna do it and what form it'll take.
It is a good question. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it too, because there's the way that I mean, it's no secret, as everybody knows, as we get into alpha, the plan is to show Pantheon off to more and more people, to larger audiences. And when you get into that opportunity, it really gives a cool opportunity to kind of infuse more soul, if that's the right word, into the game, but also into the information about the game. So there's going to be lots of opportunities where we can do that. We can do it now, don't get me wrong, but it also makes sense to do it as we get more people in as well, so that they have something to really dig into. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Likewise.
Yeah. So I have closed my window with all the questions, so we're just going to make some up. Oh, here it is. Never mind.
Nice.
Yeah. So Theric's asking, we know Theric. Theric is asking, we've seen some named weapons in the lore, such as Racamel's blade, Moonfell, and Asari's twin axes, Thrash and Profane. But what about named pieces of armor? Can you reveal they're always asking for reveals, right? Can you reveal a signature piece that players might hope to attain? And if so, share some of its history with us. So let's take the first part of that at the very least. Named pieces of armor.
I don't have anything that and this is, I hate to be a downer and not give them like something. Of a bean. Yeah. I mean, probably the one that stands out to me is armor related to Sleepless, and I don't want to go into the name right now, but that set is pretty iconic, I think, within just internally. Like we all have loved it from early designs on into now, and so that's the one I would point to right now that stands out to me.
I'm trying to think if we ever showed that on a stream. I think we might have. What I do know about that set, though, for sure, I think we did show it on a stream. But if we didn't, for sure, we have shown it in demos to potential partners. And every time that they see it, it's always like literally every time they're like, "Oh wow!"
Yeah,
it is a cool set. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no, you're good, and that's good because I'm not always up on what we've shown exactly. I don't remember that very well. But yeah, that's I would expect it to have an impact. I would hope it has an impact like that. History behind it is, man, it's so hard without getting into Sleepless more, and I don't want to do that yet, and I'm not ready to do that yet. So, but yeah, people are saying it has red in it and red on it. Combat stream, I'm almost positive. I'm pretty sure it was on that one because they did. It wouldn't be what any of the Torn Elves are wearing because they're different, but it may have been what someone else had on. So.
Theric did have a few more follow-up questions.
Yeah,
they weren't follow-up questions, but I'm actually going to skip his for now. Want to give some other posters a chance to ask their questions, and as we have time, we'll come back and ask some more of his. So the next VIP to ask a question, I honestly don't know how to pronounce their name because it's P-O, it's either a capital I or a lowercase l followed by 1. So it could be Pol, it could be P-O-I 1, it could be Paul 1. I apologize, I don't know. I just don't know, and I feel terrible about it. I'm going to lose sleep over it tonight. Mm-hmm. But this person asks, when it comes to the lore of the story of a zone, does the design of the zone come first, and you work on the story and the lore around that information, or is it the other way around, as you create the story and then the dev team works on fitting the story into the zone, or to the zone, rather?
Yeah, these are some of my favorite types of questions.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So typically the way we do things is, if possible, like Tolkien said, I wisely started with a map. We've at least got a footprint or a location in the game world for where we want it to be. And that's typically like the most basic level is that. Then I will go in, and unless there's a really strong guideline for the zone as far as like we need this to be like just a mid-level dungeon or something like that, they kind of, whether they know this or not, give me free reign to do whatever I want. And so that initial design idea of the story, I'm usually pulling in from other avenues to create this stew or the cauldron that becomes what identifies that place. And so I start with that. We've usually got Jared working with me. That it can stay in that state, like in the freezer chilling for a while. And then when we need to pull it back out again, then Jared helps really give it the visual spice and flavor. And that begins to have some iteration. So it may be immediately when we're talking about it for the first time, and then also when we're in early art. I'm jumping around a lot here, sorry about that, but Adam may come in and have thoughts because we'll talk about things from a design perspective, CP obviously, and others will begin to say, well, what about this, how about this, that makes me think of this, or what if we did this, or what if we, it begins to take shape, and you get a few more hands in there beginning to move the brushes around, or at least they're giving feedback to me and to Jared, and we'll make something that is a good amalgamation of all those all those thoughts. And so the process really starts with some very basic ideas and concepts, and for me that may be like major NPC, major POI. It may be 5 of them. It may be very vague, and I'm saying, guys, I I don't know what to do here. That's not very often with me. Usually I have too many ideas, not too few. But then we get it into design and into art, and that's where it begins to really come alive. And then you just start to see other people's fingerprints on it in some really cool ways, and that may spark a whole other round of iterations and changes to the ideas. But that's typically how it goes, is we start with an idea, we give it a face, and then we begin to build the rest of it out there. So
it's a cool process.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It's literally my favorite part of being on the team is that more than anything else, because we just get to make it happen, and then eventually it becomes in 3 dimensions, and somebody like Tim is bringing it to life, and it's just, oh my gosh,
it's magic.
Blows my mind. Yeah,
yep.
It is.
Yep. So just a reminder to anyone who's listening to this and it's not live, that you do have an opportunity to listen to the VIP roundtables live if you pledge to become a VIP. Several options available for you. Head on over to pantheonmmo.com/pledge to see the options available to you. We have a wonderful VIP community, lots of perks like listening to this live and taking part in the conversation. So, next question comes from Ixar. So in March, JN, you almost told us about the 5 wards of Hyrith. Is it Hyrith or Hirith? Hirith. Since then, we have seen a bit more about halflings. Can you give us a little more info on who they are and or what each represents? We know there used to be 6 wards. That now departed Kieran was the Ward of Flame, and I believe Machail is a Ward of Ellipses.
Yes. So anytime someone says, it used to be this, or I thought it was that, or whatever, it makes me think what we said, especially when what they used to think was the right thing, because there are 6 wards, and there have always been 6 wards. So if I said 5, I'm going to slap my hand after the call's over so no one can hear me cry, because there is still 6, and you could argue that there is a 7th. So, yes, the question about who was the original, the ward that was the original was Kage. So Kage is the Ward of Shadow. He put Machail as ... and I'm fine if this is a bean. Machail is the Ward of the Hunt. I'm just going to read all 6 of them off so that everybody can have it and
be done with it.
And be done with it, yes. Doa is the Ward of the Path, and I'm not going to say any more about that. Sozot is the Ward of the Wood. Kage is the Ward of Shadow. Fospel is the Ward of Joy. And then Machail is the Ward of the Hunt. And I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to stop myself from going any further. But we have 6 wards. And then we have some things beyond them.
There you go, Ixar. That one's for you.
Yes. Was there? Did you read something else before that?
Yeah, I read 1A.
Okay. So 1A, we know there used to be 6 wards, and that the now departed Kieran was the Ward of Flame. Kieran is still a ward, so I just am going to blame myself for any confusion that I would say, because he's still a ward.
Okay.
Can I answer 1C?
Yeah, we might as well. Well, we'll clean up Ixar's first set of questions.
Who or what is first sight from the lore? In the height of battle, the ward Kieran added the first sight and granted to him first magic to wield fire. I would say that is just very unhelpfully written by me originally. First sight was simply the ability to see the wards, which hadn't happened to any of the halflings before. And so it felt like I was, because I went and reread it just recently, and it reads like it's something different because of that exact phrase that he highlighted. And first sight is just the ability to see the ward. So you imagine these metaphysical beings that they could not see. Kieran broke that boundary by revealing himself, and that was first sight. And so the way it's written just as confusing. So
Jazomio's asking, where do you see the Barbarians having their home region in Terminus?
I couldn't tell if this was a joke or not, and so I don't have a location. I felt like Barbarians all the Barbarian fans are picking up their monitors and throwing them out their windows and ripping out their earphones. I think we will do Barbarians a little bit differently until I talk to CP and he says, no, we're not. And at that point, I will be able to know exactly where the Barbarians live. But right now, I can't tell you.
So I might be one to sort of point out the obvious too, but if we go into PantheonMMO.com and go to races and take a look there, I don't actually see any barbarians there.
Yes,
so.
that is the truth. That is the truth.
So just saying, they might not have a starting city per se, given that they're not a playable race, but yes. But they definitely might have some.
That's what made me think it might be, because we've had moments where barbarians have been put out there by certain people as like a humorous, like, oh, of course you're having barbarians too.
This is the thing about VIPs, is that they'll trick us, and sometimes they catch us off guard, and then we say stuff, and then it's like, oops, what did we just do? What did we agree to? So anyway, thank you for that. That was a lot of fun. So we'll move along to Morak. Morak's asking, are there any specific books that you take a lot of? We kind of touched on this already. Let's. Actually,
I have a quick answer to that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll ask the question first. Are there any specific books that you take a lot of inspiration from when writing your stories and lore?
I would just say, still one of the biggest inspiration points for me are history books. When it comes to world building, they do the best job of laying out things believably. And so history books, and there's a lot of them I could go into, but I'm not going to. Those probably do more for me than fantasy worlds, because they just tell history better than anybody, because they're historical books. So
I agree. And it's very, very interesting stuff. Nagasaki, if I were to roleplay a human monk in Pantheon, what are the things, races, lore-wise, that I would be concerned about and dislike, and things and people that I would like?
So
is Nagasaki actually trying to ask for details on factioning, so that when they roll a human monk, they know what to avoid?
I don't know if they're getting ahead of the game with this or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's great. Why not? Throw it out at me and see what we come back with. A human monk specifically is kind of in a neutral position and stance. I mean, there's no one specifically that would look at them and say, maybe some nobility and like really hard line, those types who just don't understand the monk mindset, because they don't understand anything that isn't like material gain. And that's cutting a very broad stroke, or painting with a broad brush on the nobility. There's all kinds of nobles who have all kinds of different thoughts and processes, and you can be anywhere on the socioeconomic scale and still not understand the mindset of a monk. And so that just kind of makes them a question mark to a lot of people. And so there actually wouldn't be a lot that really love them or hate them, or strongly like or dislike. I think the rigidity of maybe some of the more soldierly types, like the regulars, and that level of certainty, the monk would kind of see through and say that your certainty is kind of borrowed from someone else. It's borrowed from an authority. And so there's not as much like respect and maybe familiarity there as you might expect. But then they also, on the other side, they're not going to, they kind of walk by the beat of their own drum. And so, a darker, like the dark trades side of the world is not going to see them as reliable, because they're not able to be lured by things like just straight up money, or they're not greedy for gain in the same way. And so they just kind of cut this path throughout the world. And I'm just using human monks because this is the one he was bringing up, that would allow them to kind of escape the strong feelings from anyone, and they kind of walk along the mortar joint rather than being anything that's really sticking out or pronounced anyway. And they like it like that. That would be something that they want. So.
Mm-hmm. That's some details for you.
It is.
All right.
Go back through the other ones?
Yeah, we can kind of hit the rewind button. I'm going to go. This is a little bit unconventional because this is actually coming from a champion and not a VIP per se. But Zunisty, who is a VIP, asked on behalf of Kiddick because they felt that it was a good question too.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about this. I'll give you a chance to respond, but I also want to kind of dig into it just a little bit. But they ask, how will our characters be introduced into the world of Terminus? The classic shipwreck story, or do we just poof into the world, or do we wake up in the bed of an inn wiped of memory?
Did you want me to go first, or were you going to say something?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. I would say that we are working on this because there's certain other parts of gameplay that we would love to weave into this. And so it's really hard to say with certainty. Something that I think is a really, really good question. And with really good questions, I want to be careful not to answer them too much in the wrong way that acts like we've got hard guidelines or we have more conclusions than we do right now. I think there is a desire to integrate certain parts of the beginning, first character creation, whatever, experience for the player. And we just have not landed on the part that we believe in the most. Some of those are pushing a little bit more of kind of a universal narrative that accommodates all the different types of races and classes you will be. And so you have to, if you imagine that, it's something that's got to be universal. I mean, it's just got to apply to every situation, but that has a kind of a more of a narrative bent to it. And then there's, stuff that's a little bit more classic and does less and just lets you get into the action and go, because that's where really the most important part of the story is going to be the story that you're creating and making. And I can't say with certainty where we'll end up on that.
It's actually a conversation that comes up frequently across several departments, across the entire team, really, because there's as you touched on, there's such an important aspect to that, particularly when as we've been doing when we demo to potential partners or other interested parties, it's notoriously difficult to do a demo of an MMO in 20 minutes. How do you convey the gameplay of what can be months or even years of gameplay into a 20-minute session? It's very, very difficult. That and the challenges of just appealing to the customer when they first log on, because let's face it, in a lot of scenarios, if the interest isn't captured right away, you're never going to get a second chance. So we want people to get a chance. Like, obviously we want people to play, but we want them to have the opportunity to fall in love with the game as we have. So this conversation comes up a lot. What is that new player experience? What is that like? There's some pros and cons with going with a story driven thing. I know that the team is very adamant about not making it a hand holding experience. But what is the right mix for the first just for the first introduction? So I can't answer that right now, but I can say that it is a discussion that we have very, very frequently. So it's cool that this question came up, because it is something that we're constantly thinking about. And in fact, if you take a look at the producer's letter at the every month, and you go into the programming and design section, the very last point there that we address as to what we want to do for Alpha is improve the starting experience for new players. That it explains what it is right there, but it includes stuff like tutorialization and stuff. But it also includes content in the starting areas to get the player engaged, to make them feel a part of the world as soon as possible, instead of wandering around aimlessly without any clue as to what's going on. So there you go. There you have it. It's constantly a discussion. It was a long-winded answer, and you're the guest here, so I should be asking more questions of you and not answering them myself. What am I doing?
Well, I've been talking a lot. I don't know if you've been listening.
It gives you a chance to get some water, I guess. That's good.
It's literally, I drank some water almost that entire time.
Well, for that answer, you could have gone down to the corner, gotten a cheeseburger and a Coke, and come back, and I still would have been talking. So
I went out to the farm and pumped it myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's using your noggin. All right, so let's go back to Theric's questions. He still has a couple more. We'll I think we'll probably have time for both of them, but we'll ask one for now. In the recent Wild's End reveal, there is some artwork showing a reptilian temple. Can you share some details of this location?
This is another one that I wonder what we showed, because I know a while ago we had basically reptilian models in a temple in Wild's End. There's old streams of that, and so I thought that had pretty well been scrubbed. The temple, though, the temple's always supposed to be there. We're working on it now in Wild's End, but it's not. It has nothing to do with reptiles, and it's called the Gate, and it is occupied by the Withered. And I'm not going to say anything else other than that. But it's going to be a really exciting place.
Good stuff.
So, yeah.
All right. So back to poll one. What ways other than questing and the perception system are you looking to get the story of Pantheon to the average player?
This is another good question, and I lean on environmental storytelling. So it's everything from the naming of items, the description of items, the consistency in giving people, POIs and the people that occupy them, consistency in what they do. I mean, it's the behavior of certain types, of NPCs and mobs. I think there's a lot of environmental storytelling that we try to do that gives you some of the story without reading anything, without listening to anything, without clicking on an NPC. And that goes also to unexpected fractures or different things that are affecting the player, that make you wonder, why is this an anaerobic type effect happening in a place that should have nothing like that, or why is there heat coming through in a cold area? I think that there's a lot of environmental related stuff that we can do. And then there's, tasks will accomplish some of this. And then it's just going to be, it's kind of going to be up to the player. How much do they want to learn about the world if they're not using those systems. I mean, at some point we'll do, Lord willing, like extra narrative stuff that's outside of the game. But I don't know that this is talking about that. I think it's talking about in world. And if you don't really quest and you don't use the perception system, then you're going to be relying on things like, what do you pick up in the environment? I think I still come back to that. Like, that's going to be one of the main ways. And then what other people tell you. What are other NPCs? Faction related stuff is a big one too. Like, faction tells a story. What have you done that makes them like you or dislike you? Who are you that they like or dislike? And how can you affect and change that? So we love thinking that way because we don't want our narrative and our story delivery just to be reading stuff or listening to stuff. It's got to be, the world has to feel like it's true to itself, or that's going to get kind of boring. And we don't want to deny people access to story just because they don't want to use those systems. It just, it makes it a little bit different and more challenging. So I think the environmental stuff, and I include that in NPC behaviors, again, items, what they sell, what they don't, all of that to me is all part of it. I mean, even harvesting materials, why are they where they are? I think all of that is helping to tell a story.
It's interesting too. So there's lots of opportunities there to partake in the story and to enjoy the story and to become a part of the story, or let it become a part of you, really. But on the same token, you don't want to browbeat people into following up on the story, but you do want to keep things so that it's inviting enough that people want to pursue it. So it's tricky, but it's cool when you approach it from that angle. It offers more opportunities. When you invite people when you make it so captivating that people want to take part in it, as opposed to, like you said, a wall of text for a quest giver. You must read this and then, pass the trivia, that's the pop quiz that's going to happen right after. Right. That's not interesting. That's not interesting to a lot of people. So I don't know. So that's right. Cool. That's cool.
Yeah. But we still want you to feel like you're a part of a world.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you shouldn't have to read a thing to feel that.
Exactly. So. Yeah. And the cool thing about MMOs is that, the population is part of that world. So
yes.
All right. So we do have some more questions, and we still have some more minutes as well. So let's keep on rolling here.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ixar's second question. This is a simple one. Are Skar universally hated/feared among other player races?
Yeah, pretty much safe to say.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Spoff is asking live, do you have a notepad notebook where you are keeping ideas for future lore in the first expansion? And are you going to write a sea shanty for said expansion? Say that 5 times fast.
I have, yes, a notebook called My Phone, and it has documents. And then sea shanty. Yeah, sure. Yes, sure.
Morak's second question is, was there any part of the history/lore that was taken out from early on in the development that you wish had been kept? That's, I don't know what they're asking here, because how far back do you want to go? Like, are we talking like earliest concepts, or let's say no? Let's start from circa. Yeah, let's start from the current team. Yeah, that's the one that makes the most sense.
I would say either one. No, if I wish we kept it, we would have kept it.
Yeah, fair.
Yes. So I did get to see. There were definitely some things we'd kept from proto JN era.
Yeah.
And there were things we didn't. And no, there's nothing that I wish we had kept. Otherwise, we would have it in.
Yeah, fair enough. Morak saying the beginning, so in channel here. Morak, I assume you're talking about the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter, while it was cool concepts, it just it didn't work long term. So I think we've got a really good base now, and it's pretty cool. All right. So how are we on time? We still have 10 minutes, Jan.
Listen, and Kilsin's in the chat, so he'll be able to verify this. I usually go longer, so if you're okay, I'm okay to go a little bit longer. I'm not like we don't go 2 hours longer, but if it's like another 5-10 minutes, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Man.
Well, let's try to keep it as close to an hour as we can.
Okay.
But let's keep on rolling. So Theric's third question du jour is Rothuk or Rothuk?
Rothuk.
Rothuk, the Black Moon King of the Ogres, hasn't been heard from in quite some time. Can you give us a hint as to where he might be or what part he might play in the Ogre's future?
I cannot give a hint as to where he might be. I will say, okay, maybe this is a hint. He is in a place that we have discussed before. So he's not in an area that we have never discussed. His a hint as to what part he might play in the Ogre's future. He has a part. He has a part, and he has a part in their past. He has a part in their future, and I would say he's kind of the missing element of their present. So he's actually one of my pocket kind of favorite characters, and we'll leave him at that.
All right, good stuff. All right, so the third question from Ixar is, who has the greatest presence in modern Silent Plains? Bandits, Ratkin, something else? Who or what is Grandfather Thorn?
So it's a mix of races. So the Sky Durban is the main city or town in Silent Plains, and Sky Durban is probably one of the more whimsical towns, villages, whatever, in all of Kingsreach. And it's a cornucopia. It's very cosmopolitan in the sense that it's got a lot of different races that are there. And so you've got splinterfolk elves, you've got halflings, you've got humans, and you've got multiple others that live there. I would say they're the dominant group. And then there's a bunch of different beasts and some other things I'm not going to get into. Not necessarily Ratkin may have a presence, probably will have a presence, but not going to be the major NPC group. And then Grandfather Thorn is, I think, other than a mountain, one of the tallest structures on Kingsreach. And so there's deicide thorns that are these kind of like fossilized rock growths that stick up from the ground of the plains. And Grandfather Thorn is the biggest one, but it's so big and it went so deep that it basically hit kind of or got connected with a flow of magma that has really hollowed out and burned out the inside of it. And so it's the oldest, largest deicide thorn. And so we've called it Grandfather Thorn, and that's become its actually in-game name.
Interesting. Morak is third question is asking, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a stab at this actually. Since the lore of the current 9 races seems to have a pretty good foundation, have you thought about possible future races for Terminus down the road and their lore associated with them? So, Morak, you're killing me. Is 9 races not enough for you? What's going on? No, I'm just kidding. 9 races is cool. I can tell you that there is some consideration for more player classes. I take it you're talking about player classes because there's way more than 9 races in Terminus. But yeah, there is some thought to it. There's nothing committed just yet. But there is some thoughts and some discussions going around in some of the dark corners of the Visionary Realms offices. So yes, it would have lore as well. And
Absolutely.
Ixar's fourth question: can you tell us some lore surrounding Mad Run?
not a ton there. I mean, the name is called Mad Run because there's just kind of one of those local things that the only way to survive it is to make a mad run. And so that's how it got its name, is the only way to get through the cave is particularly for residents of like Demeth and Avendir's Pass, going from AVP to another zone is to make a mad run. And you make a mad run through this cave system, and so that's where it got its name.
Personal question, feel free to skip if you'd like, Morak says, but how long have you and Joppa been friends?
If you can call the relationship that we have friends, or friendship, it's been going on for over 10 years.
Nice.
And includes our children who have friendships with each other, our wives as well. And so I have gotten to know the guy quite well.
Excellent. Ixar's final questions, and he starts it off by asking on behalf of a thread recently in the general forum, are languages for different player races and beyond planned for the game? We'll start there.
I actually went back to CP about this because I feel like this comes up pretty frequently, and so much of how deep and wide this is goes to resource management on the team, and it's different than writing a book, right? Where a book we could say, well, we're creating a world, and so we can flesh out as much as we want because it's just written words on a page. And so to translate that, though, whenever you change mediums, obviously there's things that are more important in a teleplay than are important in a stage play, and there's your value of certain things goes up and down based on the medium you're presenting the story in. And so for a game, we really have to be able to justify the time investment to flesh all of that out. And so the safest and I think still effective version that we've done is, at least for the playable races, is to have words and phrases that are from their native tongue. Like the humans have Falos and Falnorda, which are greetings and goodbyes. And so we want to have some of that sprinkled in that gives you a taste of it without requiring us to do a full in-depth treatment of a language that you have to learn and go all that. I'm not saying none of that's going to be in Pantheon. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, to the fullest degree, there's a lot of time to do it well. We don't want to just, feed it to an algorithm and have them spit out some things and it be very forgettable and feel useless. That would feel wrong too, to waste your time. So we don't want to waste anybody's time, and we just want to make sure that whatever we do it effectively, and it's a wise and prudent use of our time. So.
Excellent. Well, that's bringing us pretty close to the hour here, JN. Just wanted to thank you once again for coming on to the show. I think I can speak on behalf of the listeners that they appreciate your time as well.
Thank you so much, man. This is a whole lot of fun. And I just want to say to the community, I still am amazed that people read anything that I do or that we do, because I know on our side of things, it's very obvious the amount of work we put out and the care and passion that everybody on the team has. Something for me personally is I just will always be amazed that anybody besides like my wife or a handful of friends are paying attention to my stories. So it means so much when you all just give it the attention, and give feedback and give thoughts and share thoughts, and then also to see those things take life and take shape in the hands of other content creators. So whether that's Theric and Pantheon Plus, or whether when Chris Kane has done stuff, or I know there's I don't read fan fiction because I want to stay idea wise pure. I don't ever do anything intentionally that someone else has written and put it into our world. And so but I know there's already a pretty thriving fan fiction community in our world. And I absolutely love that. It just means so much that you guys would take what we do and put your own spin on it and put your heart behind it and eventually create your own, three-dimensional characters, but even your written characters and everything that goes along with that. So it means the world to be able to do these. It's such a privilege. It's such an honor. And we don't get to do it without you all. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I will echo that. Thanks once again to our community. It's a strong one. It's a great one, and we appreciate all of the support, and we appreciate just hanging out too. We like to hear what you're saying and what you're thinking. So without further ado, I believe that's our time. Thanks all for coming out. We hope you enjoyed the show. We will be having another one as per usual. It will come at the end of December. Timing may be a little bit off depending on the holiday season. This podcast will be posted. The archive of this will be posted probably a little bit later than normal. I know that Minus is currently really busy. With the Thanksgiving week and a bunch of other stuff. So if you have just a little bit more patience, it will go up soon. It's not going to be up tonight, I don't think. So look towards the weekend. And I think that wraps us up. Thanks all, and have a great night.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thanks, folks. That's a wrap for another VIP Developer Roundtable. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please don't forget to subscribe to Pantheon for more. If you want to get in on the live developer roundtables, you can by pledging as a VIP at pantheonmmo.com/pledge. Until next time, farewell.